This is the iPhone 12 mini. Now smartphone screens have been getting bigger and bigger, so in comparison, a 5.4 inch iPhone 12 is kind of a breath of fresh air. Now essentially this is the iPhone 12, just with a smaller screen and a smaller battery, and for those compromises you can expect to pay about £100 less. But at £699, it is still quite expensive. For context, the Mini is even shorter than the 2020 iPhone SE, and at 7.4mm thick, it is probably the smallest a 5G enabled phone could realistically be. Now the overall design is fun and it harks back to the iPhone 5C with a spectrum of pretty colours. What's more, the handset is encircled by flat aluminium rails which allow it to stand up on its own. Whereas the iPhone 11 had rounded side rails, the iPhone 12 has a stronger sense of identity and a more original look, albeit one that's rather retro inspired. What's more, Apple claims this is 4 times more drop resistant than the iPhone 11 was because it's been fitted with Corning's ceramic shield. This is a new compound of ceramic crystals said to make it tougher and more scratch resistant. Now despite its size, the screen is still of a high quality and even supports HDR10. Like the iPhone 12, it has an AMOLED display but with a lower resolution. Now to the naked eye there doesn't seem to be much difference between the 12 and the Mini's displays, but there is a slight drop in quality that can be picked up with a calibrator. In our test, the Mini showcased a 94.2% coverage of the sRGB colour space. That was a little less than the iPhone 12, but not enough to really suggest one is better than the other. And that score held up well against other displays, such as Sony's Xperia 5 Mark II, which only scored slightly higher. Now those scores merely backed up our initial impressions that the Mini's display is bright, bold and beautiful. However, like the standard iPhone 12 and the Max Pro, there is still an unsightly notch along the top of the display. Now the Mini may be the smallest of the iPhone 12 range, but that doesn't mean reduced performance, as it still packed Apple's A14 Bionic chipset. Now this has been made with a 5nm process, which essentially enables more power to run through a smaller space. Unsurprisingly, the Mini is fast. In Geekbench 5, it notched up identical scores to the iPhone 12. And if you need more proof that size isn't everything, it offered better multi-threaded performance than Samsung's S21 Ultra. The Mini comes with 2 12MP camera lenses and a 12MP selfie lens. These may seem like the same number and resolution that was on the iPhone 11, but their performance will be greater due to their A14 Bionic chipset. For example, there's deep fusion technology where machine learning is used to process pixels for clearer images. This has brought major improvements to both the night and portrait modes. And that night mode also uses a wider aperture, which helps to get more details from low light settings. Now those advancements are mainly down to the new chipset, and they are probably enough to overlook the lack of a telephoto lens. It simply means that you can't capture images from miles away on an iPhone, and to be quite honest, it isn't that useful anyway. However, what is available is certainly an improvement on the iPhone 11, and it's probably the best camera specs on a phone this small. Unfortunately, that small stature does come with some limitations, such as battery life. Now to make a mini iPhone with 5G components, Apple has had to use a smaller power source. Now in our looped video test, the standard iPhone 12 only lasted 16 hours and 12 minutes. And with its smaller battery, the iPhone mini lasted almost an hour less. Now those tests are admittedly intensive. In real terms, we found that the mini needed charging by early evening or late afternoon, depending on how heavy we used it. Unfortunately, that is the price you pay for the smallest iPhone. The other size related issue with the Mini is down to its 5.4 inch display, which is a little bit awkward. The keypad, for instance, is just too compact, and when you try and type at speed you end up hitting the wrong numbers and the wrong letters. The experience is even worse when you open up a document and it becomes a complex mess of expanding and scrolling. There are many plus points to the Mini, but very few of them are work related. What's more, some of the newest features available might be too new to fully enjoy. While Apple has finally embraced 5G, network providers haven't quite managed to get it around the country, so it isn't all that useful on an iPhone as yet. That being said, there's a lot to love about the iPhone 12 mini. It's a fun and refreshing break from all those massive phablets. And the fact that the Mini hasn't been dumbed down and still has that A14 Bionic chipset does make it a pretty special package. Now there are many people that want smaller smartphones, but they don't necessarily want to compromise on performance. And thankfully Apple has the answer here with its marvellous mini iPhone 12.